Vince agreed to let me go do things outside of wrestling. And I had the chance to spend some time with him. He invited me to come to his place, and they're all there. Vince is there, and Pat Patterson, I don't know who else was there. And Vince said they've got ulterior motives, and then he went and got Jerry Briscoe. We went in the shower, and he proceeded to have Jerry Briscoe from the backside. He was a real hard worker, just a grunty style, like he was grunt. So I was interested to get involved, and I told him what I wanted to do, you know, have people put around me that could direct me effectively so I could go on and be successful at it and stuff. There were plenty of guys there, and it just grew. So we both let one another F it, and they were congratulating me, saying, man, that was awesome, this is really great. And late that night, Linda came into the picture, and I said, this is a natural, you know. I've just never been into any of that stuff. You know, women, and, you know, all that stuff and everything. That doesn't work for me. I almost fell on my knees and just started throwing up right there. And then something told me to come. Yeah, and he said, don't come. You don't need to come. And I said, what do you mean don't come? It's what I wanted to do. And I didn't push it in their face. And he said, okay. It was unbelievable. It was a shoot. And I had incredible discipline. And it was magic. Next morning, about 11:45, Vince eventually stepped in, and he couldn't even walk right. He stepped in and said, I'm not doing this anymore. We're not doing this stuff. And I was really surprised that he did that. Like he just wanted to keep going from one thing to the next, as long as somebody would stick it out. I mean, he had an addiction problem, and, you know, I would have expected more.
I think this is fake.
You can't say that.
I can say that.
Wrestling's not fake!
It's still real to me, damn it!
The unscripted, uncensored, loose cannon of commentary. This ain't WCW. This ain't Monday Night Raw. This ain't SmackDown. This ain't even WWE.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
The recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
You're listening to Marks on Commentary.
You're listening to Marks on Commentary. I'm Eddie Brophy.
I'm Jason Smith.
Now, I did have a few margaritas earlier. Maybe a good show. I tried to make a fresh blend. It did not work. I don't know if my girlfriend knows that. My inability to do basic math also applies to blenders and measurements.
Is it just straight up liquor that you can handle? Like a shot of whiskey I can do, but if you ask me to make a Long Island iced tea, no go.
Pretty much, because, I mean, I can only speculate now. I don't actually know this, but I would to guess whatever I made tonight tasted like the inside of a stripper's asshole. It was bad. I'd dump it out. I'm not a tequila man. So I've switched over to wine, but hold on, Jason, I'm going to do an impersonation for you. Hold on.
Yes.
It happened, and you probably didn't hear any of that because...
Sound like you were choking. Is it that bitter of a margarita?
If I want to sound like Ultimate Warrior, I'll drink the margaritas that I make. It literally sounded like I was trying to huck a loogie at you. No, I was trying to do my warrior snorting. No, didn't work. Well, he is, of course, as we predicted, the headliner for the 2014 Hall. Although that seems kind of brash of me because we don't know if he's the headliner.
I would imagine so. If he's not, he's co-headlining.
I would like to believe so. I mean, I can't see a guy like Warrior agreeing to do this unless he was main eventing. Oh, well, before we get into Warrior, I just want to point out one thing, that allegedly they're because they're doing this whole WrestleMania Rewind thing on the WWE Network, they're toying with the idea of inducting every headliner from each WrestleMania into the Hall of Fame. Which, I was thinking about this in the shower today. How many times would that make for Hulk Hogan in the Hall of Fame then?
That's 9, 10.
Do they induct him every time?
I don't know. I think, and that's a waste. Like, what, are you going to put Lawrence Taylor and Bam Bam Bigelow in there?
Like, that's what I'm honestly going to add. Flawed thinking now. That means the number of times that Triple H, John Cena, Undertaker, and Undertaker has, and these are guys that haven't even made it in the first time. Like Mr. T, he's not even in there yet. On his own, at least.
I think it softens the blow. Like I can understand the mindset of doing the first WrestleMania main event. You know, it's a way they're ridiculed every time they take somebody, even such like Mike Tyson, and put him in there. That it almost softens the blow, where it's like, well, you've got Piper, you've got Hogan, you've got Paul Orndorff next to him. It's okay in that sense because we're honoring the first main event of WrestleMania as opposed to just Mr. T.
I'm gonna send this Marks on Commentary airplane to a nosedive. That's what I'm doing here tonight. Jason's not laughing. Jason didn't get the joke.
No, you're gonna riddle this podcast with horrible Warrior references.
My girlfriend was asking me, well, you know, because I was telling her all about it. She was like, well, what's so ridiculous about him? What's the deal with his interviews? I tried to show her an interview. She just looked at me like, isn't that what all wrestlers sound like? So, according to my girlfriend, all wrestlers sound like Warrior when they're cutting promos. You know, reaching up to the heavens for the lightning gods and the nose diving airplanes but I a few things that I was questioning. Well, first off, Cyndi Lauper should go in before Mr. T. Or at least in the same night as Mr. T. Mr. Andy Kaufman should go in before anybody.
Absolutely.
And I was also wondering, how awkward is this going to be for everybody with Warrior? I mean, because one of our tweeters had said, you know, well, isn't this going to be weird considering the Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD? And then you got to think of, like, when Macho Man passed away and Warrior was giving away all of, like, the backstage politics with Hogan and him essentially being a juicer. Like, how's this going to work?
Well, now there's already talk that Hogan's going to be the guy to do it, despite their personal animosity toward each other.
I feel like, again, we've discussed this on previous shows, that the WWE or the WWF is essentially like high school. Like, if someone pissed you off, like, 10 years ago, you kind of get over it. Or if they pissed you off last week, like, you're already best friends the following week. So, I mean, I think it would be a cool moment to see Hogan induct Warrior, but...
Because short of that, I mean, is there really another guy?
I think CM Punk could do it.
Yeah, but I think if they're doing anything, they're saving him for Macho Man.
Ooh, that's a good one, but that's like more of like a pie in the sky, like sort of pipe dream, sort of golden. I'm sure a lot of us have is that, you know, not only will, you know, Macho Man go in on his own, or if, you know, even the whole family goes in, Punk's going to be the one to do it.
Yeah. I don't know. But
I mean, what are your thoughts so far? Because now, as I've been reading, essentially we've predicted it. I mean, but I don't think we're the great prognosticators of professional wrestling. But
right, we're just kind of able to look through the dirt sheets and go, all right, that feels right, that doesn't, that feels like shit, this feels good. So
it feels really good.
Feels awesome.
It feels like, if you don't mind my saying, it feels like Roadhead. That's what like. That's what that feels like. No, I think so far the top three, Paul Bearer inducted by Kane and Undertaker is what I read.
Mm-hmm.
Something involving Taker, Jake the Snake, and of course Warrior, who's already in there. And they keep saying they want to induct a tag team, but either they haven't figured out who, or they're saving that as like a big surprise.
It would have to be like a legendary like NWA team, I think. Like a Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express, even the Rockers or something. Because I don't know, doing like the Hart Foundation just feels meh. You know what I mean?
Is it too soon for the Outlaws, do you think?
Especially with them now participating on the show, it feels like it's too soon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how much more. What else do you have on the Hall of Fame? Because they did play a big role in Raw and ultimately where Punk stands at WrestleMania, which kind of pisses me off, but if they do it right, it'll work.
Yeah, I mean, that shocked me, but I don't know. Like, who else? I mean, yeah, there's always talk that Rick Rude needs to go in. Honky Tonk Man's another one.
Oh, fuck the Honky Tonk Man. I'm sorry. Typically, because I'm bad with math here, typically, how many superstars do we get per Hall of Fame? Is it like 5?
I think it's a class of 7. The tag teams and stables might count as 1. You know what I mean?
I'm thinking, all right, you know, out of the cannon now, we're going to go, let's say, Warrior, Jake the Snake, Paul Bearer, your big 3, like your really big 3. But then there's the possibility of, like, maybe Andy Kaufman. So there's your 4.
Yeah, you'll have your celebrity, like, inductee, honorary inductee.
And then, I mean, in terms of 5, 6, and 7, I mean, maybe a tag team, maybe, and then 2, I don't mean to call them this, but veterans or old timers, or like, the territory legends.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could round it out to a solid number 5, let's say tag team celebrity with the other 3, who would you go for tag team celebrity?
Probably the Rock and Roll Express would be the tag team celebrity. Yeah, it would have to be Andy Kaufman. To me, it's like, this is WrestleMania 30. You need to bump it up even a little bit more, even though, you know what I mean, than past years.
I like providing you with TV tracks where the clips, so I'm going to say Michael Cole.
Michael Cole needs to go in the Hall of Fame?
Or the in Your House set needs to go in.
Is that how we're going to do it? It's going to break it off into sectionalized items of the WWE Universe?
Really, they're going to run out of... Let's go with the headbangers. I think the headbangers along with...
Headbangers. And then it's like, hey, let's induct the light heavyweight title.
Yeah, let's induct Chaz.
Chaz. Ladies and gentlemen, Nintendo 64, No Mercy.
Ladies and gentlemen, your class of 2014, Chaz. I think Meat has paid his dues, and I would think Meat could go in there.
Meat?
Just Meat. Or Meat and PMS. There's your faction right there.
Just Meat's nut huggers.
Or, oh my god, his tidy orangies or his tidy pinkies.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know, now that we've been, kind of working on this for a few weeks now, but Hogan, I mean, they're saying he's close to a deal, he's made a deal, he's inducting Warrior, he's in Vegas, he's not in Vegas. Where's Hogan stand in all of this?
In terms of what he's doing on the show?
In terms of, what role is this guy? Because I've read everything from, like, he might do, like, a return match with Piper, and, like, kind of what we speculate, like a John Cena and Hogan versus Piper and a heel, and they wanted Punk to be with Piper, but it's looking like
that. That's a SummerSlam match. That shouldn't be a WrestleMania match. You know what I mean? Like, you can't take the 2 best guys and stick them in one match and have them handicapped, essentially, with senior citizens.
I like how you included both handicap and senior citizens in the same statement just there. Jason hates old people. Jason loves transvestites and he hates old people.
That's how I roll.
And he loves Bud Light Lime.
This is just Coors Light, actually, sir.
Even Jason likes to drink the piss right out of the urinal.
It's tasty, salty.
And there's your title for tonight's podcast. It's salty,
tasty, and salty.
Well, let's go ahead then to Monday Night Raw.
Yep.
What the highlights and what the low points do you?
Highlights. I was missing half because half of it I was at work, and I got berated by you for being at work.
Well, I didn't berate you, is what I did not do. I didn't know you were at work. I figured you were being, the giving individual that you are, and you were letting me tweet about Ultimate Warriors. Let's face it, everyone saw this a mile away. I mean, I think the only thing that kind of stopped it from being a monumental thing was that it was not a surprise. Yeah. I think everyone kind of knew this was going to be Warriors year. I think what's going to be exciting about it is what is he going to do when he gets there.
Yeah.
I think in terms of like the big unveil for the first Hall of Famer, I think it's less of who it is and more of what the hell is he going to do when he gets it. And like even Jerry the King and Michael Cole could not stop talking about that. They're just like, what's his induction speech going to be like? Is it going to be like a classic Warrior promo, or is it going to be like one of his YouTube videos? I mean, he goes from not making any sense whatsoever to like really just like candidly, I guess we'll go back to that word, berating like half the locker room.
I think he'll try and do something inspirational because this is his moment, and he could shit on it. I don't expect him to get up there and shit on Vince McMahon or anything like that, but it's him. You never know. Like, he could get up there and say this business needs to unionize.
You know what's funny though is, let's say, speculate here that say Jake the Snake goes in. Now you got 2 guys that for whatever reasons were kind of blackballed from the company. I personally think if you're putting this in the same vein as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I think Warrior's more the wild card, and Jake the Snake's I guaranteed like he'll go up there and probably cry and give you a genuinely heartfelt like I never in a million years thought this would happen.
Exactly.
I mean again, if you're going to do something big for the 30th anniversary of WrestleMania, if you do induct Paul Bearer on top of those 2 guys, I mean, it doesn't even matter who gets inducted after that. You got your top three. I mean, again, I still think because, William Moody himself even said, I don't want to go in without Undertaker. But if Undertaker at least goes and inducts him with Glenn Jacobs Kane, wow. You know what I mean? Like the stories that Mark Calloway, Undertaker probably has. I mean, having traveled with the man for so long.
Oh, exactly.
I mean, although I kind of wonder, like, will Undertaker, out of character, inducting someone almost overshadow who he's inducting?
I don't think so. I think he knows when to pull himself back and when to step aside.
Well, I don't doubt that. I just think the presence, not even so much what he'll do or what he'll say, or I just think his presence there. Because, again, he's a human being. We know he's not really dead. We know he's not a real Undertaker. But his presence, because they've done such a, remarkable job of keeping him away from these kinds of things. I mean, every time a wrestler passes away, notice that he's never involved in those tribute speeches.
Yeah.
I mean, just going back to the Hall of Fame before we go back to Raw, I mean, in some way, does that almost make it a bigger honor that a guy that has really just adhered to that character for so long? I mean, again, when Owen Hart died, they made a point Undertaker can't make a speech because that's going to kind of ruin his character. Like, I mean, even when a wrestler passes away and they're all out there for the 10 belt hold, like, the Undertaker's not even out there. Yeah. You ever notice that?
I have to go back and watch. I don't recall him ever being out there, though.
That's what I mean, though. Like, it seems kind of strange to me. Like, wow, they really tried so. Like, I guess for me, from this point on until Undertaker retires, what's it going to be like in terms of humanizing him? I mean, I think that's even an interesting element to bring into the Hall of Fame is like, if this is Taker's first time, because even at the Hall of Fame, they never have the camera on him. I'm sure he's there, but they never put the camera on him or even say Michelle McCool.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious where that stands.
I don't know. But it's hard to speculate on stuff until we see it come to fruition. You know what I mean? Like, in that sense is, okay, is he going to get in? Is he going to be the guy to do it?
Yeah. Well, that brings us back to Raw. We talked about Warrior, obviously, but what are some other high or low points for you?
I thought the Outlaws' turn on Punk was kind of interesting. Because it was one of those things where I looked at it and was just like, I didn't fucking see that coming.
I didn't see it coming, and that's what made me angry. Is like, I probably should have.
Yeah.
Because with all the talk and the dirt sheets of Punk wrestling Triple H, it makes perfect sense. And it does, continue that storyline. I just, kudos to WWE because I did not see that one coming.
Yeah, exactly. And I was more pissed where I was just like, motherfucker, I should have seen that coming. This makes sense. But I was also upset in the same sense because I'm such an Outlaws fan where I'm like, nah, man, now they're heels.
That did kind of bother me because I've always loved the Outlaws as faces more than heels. You know what I mean? Like, they're just not... There's certain
guys that do that where you're just like, I wish he was just a face.
I think it's too when you get to know well, not personally, but when you get really acclimated or you associate yourself with a character so well, and you go and you get obsessed and you buy all the merchandise and you watch the interviews and you see that they're genuinely just good guys just trying to, like Jake the Snake, they're just trying to make good on this kind of, I don't want to say comeback, but they're trying to do good on their new WWE run. Then it's almost like, that sucks, because when you hear the stories from the past, it's almost like it makes sense that they were heels. Back in the day, because they were kind of dicks. Now it's like they're two guys that they're, I want to say they're past their prime because they can really go in the ring. Although I will say during that match, Billy Gunn, I don't know who it was, if it was Billy Gunn, or again, if it was...
Road Dogg.
No, not Road Dogg. I'm thinking of the other Shield member. The one that no one cares about.
Rollins?
Rollins, that kind of slowed Billy Gunn down, because Billy Gunn genuinely looks good in the ring. I just felt like when he was in the ring with Rollins, something wasn't clicking.
Yeah. Well, they made a comment, I think it was the week before, that Billy Gunn looked like he had gotten blown up, and out of breath. So I don't know if maybe he's not in ring shape. Maybe he's slowing himself down. I don't know.
Well, it might too be the fact that I don't think either of them were really ready to make part-time appearances. I think they were more like the cameo Royal Rumble. They'll come out, they'll get their moves in, then they'll get knocked out, and then they're back, and then they're agents again.
Yeah.
He looks fantastic, though. Billy Gunn does look like he's still in the prime of his life in terms of what shape he's in.
Yeah.
I mean, even Road Dogg looks great.
Exactly. They both look great. I mean, they're both clean. Like, I know they had substance abuse problems too, and they've done a lot of work, and obviously they're working for the company now.
Well,
it's awesome to see them back.
You can tell that they're really, really doing their best job too in terms of going along with the whole PG rating.
Mm-hmm.
Which, to some degree, I feel like it's got to kill Road Dogg. But then again, he's good on the mic, so it really shouldn't matter what rating the show is for him to be a good promo guy.
Yeah.
But it's good to see him back. I'm just curious. Like, I hate that they're heels now.
Yeah, exactly. But if they're good at being dick heels that you like. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. I hope they're around because in my mind, they're the top contenders for the tag belts now.
I honestly, I've been wondering what's been holding them back from even going into a tag title contention, which is funny because you got to think like a guy like Goldust. You can let him be like, oh, he's way past his prime. We've said before, I think he's better now than he's ever been.
Yeah.
And they're actually, if you read the dirt sheets, which I'm sure you have, like their merchandising is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they're genuinely over. And I think I remember reading that they were supposed to break them apart so they'd have like their Mania match. But I think you'd be stupid to do that right now. Like they're really over with the audience.
It's like the Daniel Bryan Kane thing. It's like, let's squeeze every last drop out of this before we turn them on each other.
Daniel Bryan and Kane, I felt like after a while, like you just kind of lost interest because there was only so many gimmicky things they could do with those two.
Yeah.
Whereas with Goldust and Cody Rhodes, like they still got some mileage in them. Like I feel like they could go for at least a couple more months before we're like, all right, we're over it.
Well, that's the thing. They haven't run into that big roadblock yet.
Right.
Which I feel like the Outlaws could play at least once on pay-per-view. If not, let's do a couple matches.
I went from being like sort of enthusiastic about maybe like, all right, so Cody and Goldust are in the Rumble match. Maybe one eliminates the other and that creates tension. If you do that though, but then you put them in, say, a WrestleMania match with the Outlaws for the tag titles, that might be cool.
Yeah. I hope they stick around. I was excited. I'm excited. I was surprised to see them on last week's SmackDown. I was more surprised to see them again this week. And the other thing is playing off of this, Triple H's friends come back to knock around Punk. I hope it like continues where it's like, oh, 1 week here comes X-Pac. Oh, look, there's Kevin Nash again. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a match that I never entertained actually to go off that X-Pac versus Punk.
For a pay-per-view or?
Just for like a Raw. Like,
okay. Yeah, he can still go.
I mean, I think they could go for a pay-per-view. I don't think it would make sense in terms of story or in terms of who gets over. But I think in terms of like a surprise Raw match, I think it'd be cool as hell to see X-Pac because their styles are very similar.
Yeah.
They're very similar in that yet they're very different, but they're two guys on the slimmer side that can definitely, get their way around the ring. I think that's an idea that they should toy with. Just maybe have X-Pac come out and kind of, knock Punk around a few and then have Punk knock him around a few.
And I have a feeling that Punk is going to wind up being the number one entrant this year.
Do you think so?
Mm-hmm. Because of the way they said it to him, like on Raw, like you're in the Rumble, and it's like I'm expecting, they do the drawing numbers thing, or it's somehow they're gonna tell him, hey, you're number one, fuckface.
That would make sense if they were building to a Triple H. It would make more sense if Triple H came out to watch the match.
Mm-hmm.
Like before the Rumble even kicks off, you hear Triple H's music, and everyone's like, wait, is he in the Rumble? And he comes out in the suit, and he sits at the commentary table, and then Punk's number one, and then you get like a whoever for number two.
Or you just you throw like the Outlaws out there, 1 and 2 and 3, and like Kane, and then maybe the Shield. Like that would suck to like sit there and watch that, but
it's not a bad idea though, because how much, and we've talked about this before at the Rumble in Boston, how much did it suck to see Punk dominate? And he did it with, Husky Harris. NXT or the Nexus. Like, how much would it suck to see Punk in the reverse role where he's the John Cena, say, of that match, where it's like, oh, here comes Punk. Oh, wait, here's Outlaw number 1. Here's Outlaw number 2. Here's X-Pac. That might even be cool for for Rumble's surprise entries. Get more Triple H's friends in again. Because we never did see Punk and Nash go at it.
Mm-hmm.
That was really disappointing to me. Like they built and built and built, and then they yanked him out at that pay-per-view, and they gave.
Yeah, he stuck him to Triple H.
I mean, to you, would that be cool if like Punk's #1, and then all of a sudden you hear either? I would. At this point, I don't think you go back to Diesel, but if you heard the music and then out comes Kevin Nash.
Oh fuck yeah! Or even X-Pac, something you're not expecting.
I think at this point it would have to be like an X-Pac or Nash to really, because again, it was Ziggler and then Chris Jericho came out of nowhere. Like nobody saw that one coming.
Yeah. Or what if you even did CM Punk and Daniel Bryan to start the Rumble?
I wouldn't hate that. That would be pretty cool.
And then you start like the Shield comes out one by one. I don't know. That would be cool. I don't know. I'm just curious.
It depends too on where Batista stands by next Monday.
You know what? That's going off of the main event. Normally most years you can look at a Royal Rumble and it's like, okay, who's featured most in these promos? Who's gotten the most mic time leading up and talking about the Rumble? And you kind of go, okay. And even when you doubt it, you're like, hey, Del Rio's got a lot of promo time, but, maybe it's somebody else. And it always turns out to be that guy. This year, it's not the case where I'm just like, I was on Batista. I'm like, okay, Batista's the guy to win it. Now I'm not so sure. There's a lot of doubt in my mind.
Why would they have Daniel and Bray against the Usos in a cage as your main event Raw and then have him turn on Bray?
Yeah. To me, that's the nail in the coffin to end that feud.
Yeah.
Like, that's done. Let's move on to the big thing.
Well, sometimes I kind of feel like, I mean, I had made a point on Twitter, like, did you see that entire arena still chanting yes?
Yeah.
He's really hot still. He's a hot commodity.
Every time they push him down, it's like you can't push him down. Like, the audience fights back.
I that's the thing I gotta wonder, too, is, like, who's going to fight back harder? The backstage politics of the office or the audience? Because the audience obviously still is behind 110%. They're still behind Bryan. I mean, you've thrown every roadblock you could throw at that guy, and then you put him in a stupid, contention with the Wyatt family, and he's still coming out on top, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. If you had Punk and Daniel Bryan open the Rumble, it's not a bad idea, but I definitely know if that happens, that Punk is definitely not winning the Rumble. I say that even now. I don't think, because...
Yeah. He's my third place. You know what I mean? I think it's either Batista or it's Bryan.
And it's harder now because normally the guy that wins the Rumble goes on, to main event, and the second best goes on to take whatever title gets. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. I've noticed that. There's a lot of years like that.
So now that you have one unified title, I think it's going to make the Rumble more exciting, because now it's not like, oh, well, whatever, this guy won the Rumble, there's two titles. Now it's like,
there's no second place.
That's my point. Yeah, there's no second place now.
I'm curious, too, as how the Brock Lesnar title shot's going to play into this.
And it's funny because I kind of feel like a lot of the writers on these dirt sheet sites and a lot of fans right now, like, there's more questions than answers, which is great, but they pull their shit together before Mania.
I think so. And my latest, in my mind, of what I'm thinking they're going for is Daniel Bryan versus Brock match for the title.
I didn't even think of that one.
I was lying in bed last night. I'm going, son of a bitch. You could do that. You could get there from there. That opens up Cena and Taker. That gives you Triple H and Punk. And those are your big matches.
I didn't even think about that. That's a good way. Yeah, if Brock wins the title at the Chamber, and Daniel Bryan's still the #1 contender, that does leave Taker open for Cena.
Yeah, and then you've got Batista and Orton.
You can still have Batista, but Batista. The only thing in the promo that kind of it throws me off is that Batista, like The Rock, he's coming back for the title.
So isn't Brock? So isn't yeah.
I mean, I think that's the unless, because there's never been. I mean, we've seen the Fatal 4-Way at Mania. Have we ever seen a 6-pack challenge? No.
I think that's too many faces, though.
I think it is too, but I'm a little worried because if you don't have enough singles main event matches, like how far will they go to cram as many top faces in a match and headline Mania 30 as they can. Because I feel like what made Mania 20 so fucking great, well, first was just that it was awesome to see a guy at the time like, dare I say, Benoit, come in at number one, win the Rumble, and then challenge Triple H. But then HBK be like, no, I'm not taking this sit down. I'm not done with Triple H yet. And then you got a triple threat and a phenomenal triple threat match to boot at WrestleMania.
Definitely.
I mean, I think there's a part of me that kind of wants to see a repeat of WrestleMania 20 because WrestleMania 20, depending who you ask, personally, I thought it was flawless from beginning to end. That was a great WrestleMania. And WrestleMania is, and I've said on the show before, or maybe I haven't, maybe just on Twitter or wherever, but WrestleMania pay-per-views are really genuinely not that good usually.
Yeah.
They're built up to be the Super Bowl of wrestling when really they always fall short. Like there's always something about the booking that just feels wrong. Like it doesn't come together the way
you're just like, you've got these two pieces over here, and if you would just put these together, perfect. But they always seem to just miss that extra step to take.
Well, for the longest time now, and I want to say probably the past 5 or 6 Manias, it's always been billed as like a one-match pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I mean, last year, and people could say, oh, Rock and Cena too. No, I thought it was Punk and Taker.
Yeah, that was my main event being there. That was the most interesting thing of last year.
I mean, yes, the year before that for me was, Rock Cena, but then you had Michaels and Taker. Mm-hmm. No, Triple H and Taker, which I didn't really care about. The year before that, you had Taker and Shawn Michaels too, and that was a big one. And then the year before that, so it always felt like a one-match pay-per-view. And I'm still screwing it up because it was Triple H 2 years in a row.
Yeah, one in the Hell in the Cell and one in Atlanta.
Again, this is why you shouldn't do 2 years in the same match because I don't even know which match happened where now. Like I didn't just say, yeah, at Bad Blood, they did this. Bad Blood hasn't been done since 2006. Yeah, whatever,
I don't know. Like, I appreciate that it's keeping me on my toes, and it's not, hey, we're heading towards Rock and Cena 5. You know what I mean? Once.
You already saw those.
I know, but that's the thing where it's just like, that's what sucked about WWE after Raw 1000. Is when Rock came out and said, hey, I'm going to challenge for the title at the Royal Rumble. You pretty much knew that Cena wasn't losing it until the Royal Rumble. And then you kind of knew, okay, Cena's going to win the Rumble, and then we're going to get Cena and Rock again.
Could they do that again, though? Could they say, a year out from now, WrestleMania main event, have two guys say, a year from now, we're going to have this match?
I don't see them pulling that off. You really need, like, those status stars, those epic WWE stars, that top tier, Austin, Hogan, Rock, Cena. There's, those are the 4 big ones. And until you create that next guy, I don't see them doing that.
I mean, at this point, though, I just feel like, because what I'm worried about is that after WrestleMania 30, if it hasn't happened by WrestleMania 30, there's no more dream WrestleMania matches. Do you ever get that feeling sometimes, like that anxiety of like Punk Cena, it's done, it's never gonna. I mean, Punk Austin, it's never gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's never gonna happen.
I don't know what's next. I mean, they have to create the next round of stars, and you know what? In fairness, once we got to WrestleMania 20, it was kind of like, all right, well, what's left? And then that following year, you had the ascension of Orton, Batista, and Cena. So it's not like they can't make new stars.
It's not like they can, but that was a very boring era for me.
It's very boring, but that's one of my favorite WrestleManias, is 21.
Really?
Yeah, just because of the shift from one generation to the next. I thought it was done really well.
I'll give you that. I do think in terms of setting up Batista against Triple H and then Orton against, or Cena against
JBL,
and then Triple H against Batista. I did think that worked really well in terms of setting up the youth generation.
Exactly.
Now, I think I should ask this, but where's RVD, Jason?
That's a good question. He's not going to be anywhere main event-ish. If anything, I don't know if you've heard this, they're talking about unifying the U.S. and Intercontinental title, which I don't think is a bad idea, but they want to do it at the Elimination Chamber. which my guess is they're like, we don't got anything for Elimination Chamber. You know, but years past it was, hey, let's put, you know, the second place, you know, Royal Rumble winner out of the Elimination Chamber, you know, that's up for grabs.
But isn't that a good thing in your mind? Like, if they're literally like, crap, we have our main event for WrestleMania 30 locked. You know, I kind of feel like if they unify the U.S. and the Intercontinental titles, at least they're trying to make that, like, because again, if you won the Intercontinental title, you were a big deal because guys like Steve Austin, Triple H, The Rock held it, and then they became potential WWF or WWE champions. Do you think they're trying to bring back the prestige of, you know, having a one-time? I think they should just say screw the U.S. It's the Intercontinental title.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's kind of too soon since you last done it. You know what I mean? It's like, let's just give a little time before we start saying the unified Intercontinental U.S. champ.
Don't even make reference to the fact that it's unified. I would almost just go as far as just saying, like, it's the Intercontinental Championship, bam.
Yeah. What I was hoping for is what they were talking about last year, is doing the ladder match for both of them at WrestleMania.
That would be cool. But if you're going to go WrestleMania 30, and you know Scott Hall's clean, obviously, so...
I don't think he's in condition.
I wouldn't say I wrestle the match. I'm not going that
okay.
I'm saying in terms of, like, a nod to him and HBK, would they be ringside?
Yeah, you could do something. You could put him on commentary.
That's what... Because Scott Hall, I mean, despite his physical shape and despite what he's done to himself, he's still... If you ask him to play the Razor Ramon character, he still could. I mean, I was questioning his shape when he wrestled Austin at WrestleMania. I mean, I remember watching that match being like, this sucks. This is terrible. Like, to that point, I mean, this might sound TV tracks worthy, but I'd never seen Austin wrestle a bad match. In my mind, that was one of his worst matches I've ever seen.
Yeah. That was up there.
Why? Do you have a few other bad Austin matches? Or
No, I'm trying to think of some shitty ones, but that's definitely the top tier.
I mean, him versus Eric Bischoff, that's a given.
Yeah, I mean, shit like that, though, that doesn't count. Where he's not even in his ring gear, that doesn't count to me.
He literally just drove to the arena wearing...
Yeah, he went down to the ring on the ATV, and he's holding a cooler the whole time. That's not a wrestling match to me.
Well, I mean, that opens up the door for Paul Heyman's Rascal versus Austin's ATV.
The ultimate WrestleMania match.
I think that should main event. I think Austin's ATV should go in the Hall of Fame. Class of 2014, Austin's ATV.
Austin's ATV is inducted into the Hall of Fame by Paul Heyman's Rascal.
You make it seem like it's a bad idea, but I'm loving every second of it. So Monday Night Raw, what did the Wyatt family match? I mean, was that to you? Because when I watched that match, I didn't care that they even had a steel cage. I was just so desperate to see Bryan turn on Bray.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked that it was the Usos getting the nod and not somebody like Cody Rhodes and Goldust.
That match did shock me a little bit. I'll agree with you on that. That one did shock me.
But I thought they did a decent job for being the Usos. I don't know. Here's another thing we can think about is, do you think it was the wrong move or the right move to do the whole Wyatt family, Daniel Bryan joining them storyline? Because I see a lot of people bitching about it.
Oh, I thought it was the wrong move from day one.
But in terms of quickness of how they did it.
I think it was the wrong move because I just feel like if you were just going to have Daniel Bryan turn on him within 2 weeks, what was the point? Yeah. It was a buffer. That's all it was. It was a buffer. And Jason's having a hot pocket, which I'm assuming...
It's a bag of gummy bears.
Gummy bears. Jason.
What?
You call yourself a pro wrestling fan.
All right.
That should be a hot pocket with your Coors Light.
I'll put them in the hot pocket.
Gummy bears in the hot pocket. Now we've turned into the Food Network of wrestling fans.
It's epic meal time.
You know what I like with my wrestling? Gummy bears in a hot pocket. I get to the fat kid with the hoagie second throw. We can't pronounce your P's. Well, obviously, there's another topic we haven't and that's the death of Mae Young, which we all saw coming.
Yeah, I mean, there was rumors as early as 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, they get passed on. I mean, I did like the little video package they put together for him, despite the fact that I thought it focused too much on her later career then. But is that what made her stand out? Was that the fact that she was a woman as old as she was, and she could still go in the new generation?
Oh yeah, like you hear all the great stories of how, you know, she could still go. And there's a famous story where, you know, when Bubba powerbombed her off the stage into the tables, she grabbed Bubba and said, "You powerbomb me like you do the rest of the boys." So,
I never heard that story.
yeah, that's pretty awesome in my mind.
I remember when I saw that happen, you could tell that his ass broke the table before she did. You could tell he was protecting her. I'm not saying that to be dark, like he was protecting her. Like obviously she was too frail to go through the table. That's actually cool. So I remember thinking that, like, you know, God, that's such a incredible stunt to do with a woman her age. And Bubba looked like he was totally protecting her. But to hear that's kind of like, oh, that's kind of awesome.
And the other one I love is Val Venus is telling this story. There was a segment where she had to give the Bronco Buster to Eric Bischoff or something, and before she goes out, he's in the ring with Austin doing some segment, and she pulls Val over and she pulls her underpants aside and says, "Val, look," and she's got sardines stuffed in her underpants.
Oh God!
So
that explains the face he made now.
Yep.
And that's really cool.
I just love classic shit like that because you get the sense that she was just a cool fucking lady to be around, and she was fucking with it even till the day that she died. Like, I even love the one where she's on Raw and she says, "I want a match with these two sluts."
Well, I mean, I still have it burned in my mind because I was watching live, and oh my God, when she went topless at the Rumble in '99, in 2000, oh my God.
Yeah.
And none of you know this unless you were actually, it's like the Owen Hart thing. Unless you actually paid for pay-per-views back in the day, you didn't get to see some of this shit.
I think it's on the DVD.
Is it?
I have it in my collection. I have not watched it in years. It's not something a frequent viewer or anything like that. So.
Because I remember that, you know, by Armageddon, they were already teasing TVMA, and I'm like, TVMA? Like, what are they? And the Royal Rumble, it went from TV4 to TVMA. I'm like, why'd they go TVMA? Like, is Miss Kitty gonna do something again? And then when it turned out to be Mae Young, I was like, oh my God.
But that was the thing, was like you could go to her and approach her and be like, "Hey, we want you to whip out your boobs. Is that okay?" And she was just like, "Fine, sure, go for it."
I still think my favorite bit, which did include the package, which I was so happy, was her card game with the APA. Oh my God, that definitely was one of my absolute favorite bits that she did. I thought she had a good sense of humor about the hand thing too.
Oh yeah. And the Mark Henry sexual chocolate thing, and you know, you go on, and yeah, you know, then you're like rolling your eyes. Now you look back, you're like, that's kind of funny.
Well, it was funny because if you did watch the coveted Attitude Era DVD, which I gave away, Mark Henry had a really good sense of humor, and he was a really good sport about a lot of the shit that they put him through.
Yeah.
Which makes you wonder, what are they doing with him now?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, he's lost all that steam that he had as the badass heel.
Yeah.
I think he's back to where he started before. He was just lost in the mid-card.
I thought you saw the best of Mark Henry when he was the World Heavyweight Champion. I honestly thought that was one of the best moves on their part, because I thought he was a really good World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah. That's what that title was good for at that time, is like taking a guy who hadn't been made and giving him, you know, his just dessert.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, he's not good enough in my mind at this time with too many other players on the table to be the WWE champ, so I don't know where he ends up. Intercontinental champion, if it means something again?
I think Big E Langston, I think, and I hate to say it, I think he is the guy to restore something to that title.
Yeah.
Because he's a really good athlete. He's got a great look. He's got a gimmick that works for him. He seems like a nice guy. He's a good face. I'll give him that. He's a really good face.
Yeah. He'll be up there in the next couple of years.
My said he'll turn into another Mark Henry, because that's exactly who he reminds me of. He reminds me of a young Mark Henry.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm worried about, because honestly, I genuinely like him as an athlete, as a wrestler. Like, I like him. Like, he's got a good gimmick that works for him. It's not too over the top, but it's not too. It's not like Brodus Clay, where I felt like when Brodus Clay, and I feel like I was one of the only supporters when he first came out with the disco gimmick. And I felt like, wow, like that's funny as shit. Like I think he'll make this work. And then they jumped the shark, and it was like, all right, now I'm over it. But you remember the first Brodus Clay match? I remember I was talking with you when we were watching it, and we were going through like the list of like one-liners he was saying as he was going through, because you knew the audience was pissed at him. Like you teased it, and then it's like, what the hell is this? And all I can remember from the match is, should I get him? My bad. And like just the way he was talking, and just like how I really liked that.
It takes balls to do something different, and if it works out, it's amazing, and if it doesn't,
well, I know
it's tensei.
I did see on Twitter that you are a fan of Brodus Clay's new gimmick, his heel gimmick.
I thought he did a really well done job of delivering one of his recent promos with The Miz.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how it goes. I don't know if it's main event caliber, but it could be develop him slowly and push him towards the Intercontinental title.
All right. Do we have any tweets this week?
Let me go head over and take a look.
I know I was delivering some golden tweets to people. Keeping that my boy, the Warrior, is now officially a Hall of Famer.
That's Heel Fan wants to know, who is the one wrestler you would love to have on the podcast?
You know, and this, because it might, for Jason it won't, but it might come out of nowhere for some people. I would absolutely love to have X-Pac on.
I'm with you. I'd love that.
He was absolute, when I was a kid, and not just because we share the same birthday, absolutely my favorite fucking wrestler of all time was X-Pac.
Yeah.
And I just feel like he's cool enough that if you sat down and you talked with him, he would tell you some good stories. Like we watched on the You Shoot videos, like he had no problem just kind of like, you know, settling in and just being like, hey, you want to hear some stories? I got some stories.
I'd probably go with Paul Heyman, even though he's not a wrestler.
The second obvious one, Paul Heyman.
Yeah. Just because the wealth of knowledge like that guy knows, I'd love to like be able to rub up against and get a glimmer of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's see.
All right, can we go like? We have to agree on this. This may take a few minutes, but like on Mark's top 5.
Okay.
Like it'll never happen, but it should.
Sure.
I think we can both agree on Paul Heyman.
Okay.
X-Pac.
Yep.
God, you know who I would like to really get, and I think it'd be fucking awesome, would be Just Incredible.
That would be cool. That's not impossible too.
I think he's another one. Like that guy's just got a wealth of knowledge, and it's just from ECW to WWE. I just think that, and I showed you the guy talking about Undertaker on the plane when he was on acid.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
Let's see, Jericho.
Oh hell, dude, Jericho is the only. Now seriously, I love to read, but I'm like a slow sort of snobby reader. Undisputed was the second book I'd read in 24 hours. Could not put that fucking book down. Couldn't do it. I fucking loved reading that book cover to cover. Because it was everything a fan would want from Jericho. Like, you know, his first book, obviously if you're like a hardcore Jericho fan, is from when he started and, you know, the early... I mostly love the personal shit he put in Undisputed about his mom and about, like, his relationship with rock stars. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. I definitely would love to have him on the show. All right, I think that's 4. Is there
a never shot in hell chance? Actually, it's a tie. I would actually love to get Glenn Jacobs on.
That'd be interesting because he's not very candid like that and doesn't really talk at all.
But you know, the fine thing is he's actually really well spoken. But obviously, I would love to talk to the Undertaker. I would love to meet that guy.
Yeah. And since it doesn't say live, dead, or whatnot, I think Macho Man would have been a great guest.
You know what's funny is because I just feel like Macho Man's the type of guy that if he were still alive and he knew of podcasting, and I just feel like he would just be like, oh, hell yeah, why not?
Exactly. At least appear on somebody's show and like, yeah, I'll talk to you.
I mean, I think the most obvious one would be Punk.
Yeah, I mean, but I'd worry about pissing him off too.
Well, I think with Punk, it's like, I feel like personality-wise, we would gel with him.
Yeah.
But I just feel like in terms of where he's at right now, the personalities might clash in terms of, like, we say whatever we want because there's nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, he can drop pipe bombs, quote unquote, but he still works for WWE. So it's a harder sell on that regard.
So that's like a magnificent 7 that we have.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I would talk to just about it. Like Ziggler, I think would be a cool interview. Zack Ryder, I think would be a cool one. New Jack, I think would be like, oh man. I thought Gangrel would be one, but
You know Vince has a brother?
Vince has a brother?
Vince has a brother. I would love to talk to Vince's brother.
I'm sorry, all I'm picturing right now, I don't know if you ever saw it, was Fred Claus. Why was Vince's brother not in the quasi AA meeting of like the brothers?
Funny thing is he was actually kind of set up to do a role on TV and was supposed to come in after the Vince McMahon limo explosion, and then the Chris Benoit thing happened and that all got nixed.
No shit.
Yep.
Oh, that would have been so fucking cool. Why did you know what? That brings up John Laurinaitis.
Yeah, fuck it.
Well,
what?
I think we're terrible podcasters. Why are we not to JR?
Yeah.
I think for us it would be too much. Like, you just hear that voice, and you just be like, "Oh my fuck, I can't talk to this guy. This guy was my childhood." This guy he sold, like, he was the Ziggler of comedy. This guy could sell anything. I ate Skittles for a year because of this man. If I was a car owner, I would have used Gas Girl GTX. I don't even know what it does.
I was listening to him during the Kennel from Hell match, and he's trying so hard to make that anything worth watching.
I think that was his gift, though, was that even if a match was terrible, like if JR was like, "Oh my god, this is awful," like you were just like, "Oh my god, I love JR because he's just so good at it." Like, all right, guys, I'm gonna try and sell this. But I'm gonna be honest with you, this match is shit.
Sorry. Hold my hand, we'll get through it.
Well, exactly. I think that was the greatest thing about JR. I remember when Cactus Jack and Triple H had their match in No Way Out, and he made a remark like, if you're not standing up, even if you're at home right now for this man, you're not a true fan of the sport. He meant it. Like, when it was him and King and Jonathan Coachman, and again, No Way Out, when Austin returned, and he couldn't sit down. He was so excited. I don't think that was like a character or a storyline. I genuinely, JR was so happy to see Austin back. I mean, how many times can you hear him say, Stone Cold, and think like, oh my god, this guy's a good professional. Like, no, I genuinely think he was so excited to see his best friend back. Even if it wasn't a match with Bischoff.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Let's round out Twitter. Big Jim wants to also know, let's see. Do you see Jake the Snake having more airtime matches, or was his return a one-off?
The true answer is one-off. The fan answer is I would like to see at least 2 more appearances from him.
Yeah.
WrestleMania 30.
I'm with you. I think the telling point was the fact that he didn't do the DDT or anything like that. He just kind of walked into the ring and laid the snake out.
I think he'll get, if he doesn't get a Hall of Fame, then he's done.
Mm-hmm.
If he gets Hall of Fame, I think he'll at least get a WrestleMania 30 appearance out of him.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe he'll even get, when I think, if he goes in with Warrior, I think he'll even get a WrestleMania 30, a Warrior, Jake the Snake, backstage promo.
That'd be awesome.
If they make reference to the fact that he supposedly killed Warrior and it's a fake Warrior in his place now, I think that would be fun as shit for the fans. Hey, remember that time my snake bit you and now everyone thinks you're dead? No, that was, realistically, I think that was a one-off, and which makes me sad when you read the interview or you see the backstage video, but I think it was a one-off unless they induct him. If they induct him, then you're going to at least at WrestleMania 30 Hall of Fame appearance.
Well, I know that they were doing some type of documentary thing with DDP Yoga and Jake the Snake, and I think, having the Raw appearance is good, but I think the Hall of Fame thing is a good way that you'd want that story to end.
Yeah.
So, I think he'll definitely be in the Hall of Fame this year.
I mean, not to get too personal, for what it's worth, for someone who did have substance abuse issues, to see someone like that. I mean, I did watch. I told you about the Bryant Gumbel interview.
Mm-hmm.
To understand and to listen to or read his interviews and to understand where he's at, why he did what he did, and then when he was, just to see the look on his face when he came back, that to me is worth a DVD.
Oh yeah,
because that's not an easy thing to come back from, and that's a day-to-day thing. That's not like he went back on Raw, he's good now. Like, that's one day at a time.
Definitely.
I mean, not to kiss his ass, but DDP on this show, or DDP in general, he's like the Betty Ford of wrestling clinics. What he has done for, I mean, people, if you saw I think it's Arthur, the YouTube video. I remember seeing the video of, I believe his name is Arthur, the paratrooper who couldn't walk.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I first saw that on Reddit. No lie, no context, nothing. I just, someone posted most inspirational video. I think it was this kid I used to hang out with, Arthur's younger brother posted it. And then it was on Reddit. I listened to it. He's talking about going to yoga instructors, and I paused it and just said, if DDP comes up next, I'm gonna fucking lose it. Press play, but DDP. And then I fucking just stood up and just like an asshole, just started clapping and crying because I was just like, fuck yeah, dude, a pro wrestler actually did something that can't get ridiculed now. Like, this guy's act. If DDP doesn't go to the Hall of Fame, I'm gonna fucking lose it. Like, that guy has done so much for this business, just outside the business. Like, watching his videos and seeing like his interviews, like Jericho, the interview that talked about Eddie Guerrero, was phenomenal. I love that interview. I should get through the rest of the tweets though.
That's pretty much rounds it out.
Well, I mean, we're almost done here, so
Yeah.
978-276-9418 at MO Commentary on Twitter. Questions, comments, concerns, alcohol, recipes, anything that works. Tutorials on how to use GarageBand / whatever the I go about me.
Did you see the cool Taz shirt I bought?
I did not.
I bought a Taz baseball jersey for $4 on eBay.
Not surprised, sir.
I know. I'm always showing Eddie, like, hey, look, over here, $5. Hey, $12 for this deal.
I'm still at the thrift store. I'm still like looking. I'm waiting like hell for the guy that gives up the box of all the old WWF VHSs. Like, I'm still holding strong. I am literally still holding out for those.
It's probably coming with the launch of the network.
Hopefully, one can only hope. However, I will say that I think that was a solid show for Eddie Brophy on Marks on Commentary. For Marks on Commentary, I'm Eddie Brophy.
I'm Jason Smith. Stay tuned for a very special announcement from Andy's Army.
Never hangs around.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Hey, wrestling fans and freaks alike. I am the Information Highway's last living outlaw. My name is the Masked Tweeter. I hail from parts unknown. I am here today to deliver to you breaking news that's going to put you in a headlock. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Stop the presses. Get the president on the horn. This is a big one, folks. I am joining forces with Andy's Army. To get Andy Kaufman the 2014 WWE Hall of Fame Induction Award. Think about it. You, me, the rest of Andy's Army. Together we can collaborate and make this happen, folks. I don't have to tell you, how cool would it be to play a small part in getting the legendary comedian Andy Kaufman inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame Class of 2014. Wherever you visit online, I want you to hashtag AK4WWEHOF 2014. Let me say it again. Hashtag AK4WWEHOF 2014. Wherever you go, Facebook, Twitter, I want you to hashtag it. I want you to tell your friends. I want you to tell your family. I want you to stop people on the street, people you don't even know. And I want you to say, hey, let's put Andy Kaufman in the WWE Hall of Fame Class of 2014. I know you can do it. Remember, hashtag AK4WWEHOF 2014. And don't forget to visit me on Twitter at MaskTweeterX.